Thank you very much. You probably need me to use this, don't you, for there? Okay. Because otherwise I don't want to blow you out of here. I'm very loud as it is. So, first of all, I appreciate you having me. I know when Tim called, I'm always honored to come and speak here. I've been in now just for a little bit over 2 years. And to be honest, I think when people ask all the time of, well, how is it going? I love it. I love what I do. I think working in Flint for so many years and retiring out of there, but living here my whole life and the ability to coaching 1,000+ kids in our county, I think probably, and if my wife was standing up here, she would tell you the key to it is I take things personal in this town because I'm so vested in our kids. And so when we go into the office every day, we look at different things and different ways to try to improve. Obviously, it takes a while to get your feet on the ground, I think, every day, and I think 10 years from now, I will still be learning. I think with the times that we live in, things are changing very quickly. And I think ultimately, as any of us in today's age, but especially the elected officials, we need to change with the times. We need to see what's best and how to do things more efficiently for our residents. Couple of the things that we have going, I'm going to touch on a few programs. We've been really busy the last 8 weeks. We implemented 3 new programs that I'm really excited about and I think are going to be very beneficial to the county. And then at the end, I'll open it up because a lot of these forums that we go to, there's a lot on people's minds right now, not only with everything, but a lot with law enforcement and things that are happening. So I want to give you the opportunity, if you have a personal or individual question that you'd like to address, I'd be happy to talk about anything. A lot of you I know, some of you I may not. I tell you up front, I'm brutally honest. I'm really, really blunt. Some people don't like that, some people do, but I'm going to tell you my answer, and we can agree to disagree on things, but at the same side, I am always happy to have you come and sit down. I'll be happy to talk through things with you. But the one part when I came in, and I'm sure that those of you heard me speak early in this, and I say this all the time, I want to live in a county where when we have issues, we discuss them openly. I don't want to have, I think, and unfortunately, I think this is kind of across our country and probably across the world. A lot of times in positions like mine, we like, and I relate this a lot to school districts also. And I know we were up here not too long ago with all the superintendents, and I said that same thing that night. When we have these issues, a lot of times as elected officials or superintendents or whatever we're leading, a lot of times we want that stuff kept quiet because we don't want to make it think that we're having issues or troubles in our community. I don't want to live in a town like that. I don't want to hide the problems or the things that we have going on. I want to talk about them openly. And I want to find ways to get better as a whole. No offense, I'm not the smartest guy in the world out there. So to have input from the community is even more important. I spend a lot of time in our schools. That is my passion. When I retired, this wasn't my plan. I was more to get into coaching in schools. It was my wife, actually, that one day when we started looking at doing this, she said, Scott, the kids is what you revolve all of your time and effort towards. What better platform than the sheriff's spot than to do that in the town that her and I grew up in, that we've all grown up in? She was right. So we focus on those things, but when we talk even about the school stuff, there's a lot of things going on in our schools right now. And the problem is, a lot of times, even with the districts and things too, I think we're pretty blessed with a lot of the superintendents and schools that we have in this county. But I come from another school, or from another township in Genesee County, where we had 5 school districts in there. And superintendents and some of the people in there, they didn't want anything that happened in that school to get out. We're solving nothing by thinking that way. Let's talk about it. And I upset some people along the way with doing it, but I said this is what we got put into these positions for, is to educate not only the kids, but the parents. So I spend a ton of time in the schools. That is my passion with it. You see a lot of interest. You see a lot of focus. You're going to see a lot of things coming into this next school year that I'm going to be involved in with all the superintendents. The times in the schools right now there's a lot going on. And the problem is, I think ultimately, I have people a lot recently that have come up and said, man, what's going on in Lapeer? What's going on in Lapeer schools? Or what's going on in Lapeer County? There's a lot of things going on. Well, I don't know if that's completely true, but I'm talking a lot about it. And I'm bringing it to the forefront so that we can improve. Instead of just trying to keep it hush-hush so everyone feels warm and fuzzy about it. Let's fix the problems that we have. I think we see a lot of the people ask all the time of why with the kids that we're having and the issues that we're having in the schools. We talk about vaping as the big one right now. We're putting a lot of time and effort into that, not only the education, but to stop some of the things and the moving around of it between whether it's commercial businesses or kids themselves. We had the event at Lapeer High School where the 4 kids coming over from Zemmer, the 9th graders, used a vape on the bus, the transfer bus over there, and there ended up being a substance in there that all 4 of them crashed and were taken by ambulance to the hospital. So my son's in that school, and so when that happened, I was there within minutes, and I immediately said to the administration is, we got to talk about this. We need to put this stuff out there. We need to understand it. The problem is, truthfully, and it kind of goes back to when I had the real big push last year with social media throughout the schools, the truth is, a lot of us don't understand this stuff. I don't. And it's part of my job, but the technology and the vaping's brand new for us. So a lot of us don't have that understanding. So a lot of times that lack of education creates that wall between the parent and the kid because they don't even really know how to talk about it. So I said, let's start doing some of these forums that we bring. Deputy White, that's in the Mayfield Township, has stepped up and done an amazing thing with by putting them in Zemmer. You wouldn't believe the amount that they confiscate every day in that school. Here's the problem. We got to change in our laws, right? We had a vote here recently where marijuana and some of the things there with the recreational side. The problem is those vapes, you can have a clear cartridge that hooks onto that vape where you can smoke marijuana and nobody will even know. When we talk about, I'm not going to get into the marijuana part, obviously, for those of you that know how I spoke out about that. I took a beating over that, but I'm good with that. I'm good with putting my voice out there, the things that I see, and the kids are my focus, and that's what I'm fighting for. So there is a lot of different things for us, and it's hard for all of us because we don't understand it. We've been trying to educate ourselves on it. These vapes, if you know when we talk about that, a vape is basically just a vapor, the way I say it. It started off as an e-cigarette. And what really upsets me about all of these things is if you look at the grand marketing scheme of what these companies are doing, they're targeting our kids. Okay? So they're taking, originally when the e-cigarette came out, what did they advertise it as? A way to quit smoking. That's the way it was created. So then they went to the vape side of it. And you can do multiple things with vapes, as in you can have them that just are flavored, you can have some that don't have nicotine, you can have some that have nicotine, and now the problem is now we have the marijuana. We've taken vapes that's had other narcotics inside those vapes. So there's synthetics that can be in there. So a lot of times these kids are passing around and don't even know what they're actually inhaling. Here's the scary part. A lot of these, they're doing in school. They're doing in class. And when you talk about, because you talk a lot of the companies, the main company that markets them is called Juul. And Juul started, when a vape first came out, it was this big cartridge. It almost looked like your TV remote. I mean, it was monstrous. So then what did they do? They started concealing it. If you look at a Juul vape, it looks exactly like a thumb drive that's in your computer. It's about that big and about that wide. What do the kids do? They take and put it in their sweatshirt. If you see kids wearing hoodies, especially in the summer, and they'll walk down the hall or in class, they'll take a hit off of it off the vape, and then they'll blow the smoke. If it is a smoke or smoke-filled one, they'll blow it back into the sleeve of their sweatshirt. They're creative, and the problem is there's tons of them in there, and we don't know what's happening with a lot of these things, as in these kids don't understand it. Let's talk about probably the biggest issue, whether we talked about the social media, whether we talked about the vaping, whether we talk about drinking and drugs and everything else. The problem is, kind of going back to what I said when I first got up here, is our parents aren't talking to our kids. And this is where sometimes I upset people. But these kids are being raised by the schools or by law enforcement or by coaches. I've coached for a long time out here. I couldn't tell you how many times over the years that I ran the youth football program that was the Lapeer Steelers and then the Junior Lightning. I was a babysitter. We had 7 years old. The kids started at 7 years old in that program, and a large majority of parents would drop them off. They'd be there for 2.5 hours, and they'd come back and pick them up at 7. I couldn't tell you how many times I had to take parents or kids home because parents forgot them. So, again, when I said at the beginning of this, I'm going to talk about the topics that are happening out here. Here's another part of it, and I was very impressed and proud with the way we did this last with the social media thing. Social media is completely out of control, but it's something we are going to have to live with. It's only going to get worse, right? So I get bombarded every single day about social media from parents. My kid's doing this, my kid's doing that. I couldn't tell you how many people are inside the sheriff's department, kids that are brought in there by their parents so that I can sit down and talk with them. And I will do that for anybody and everybody in this county because I want to try to get through to them. But when we did that, we had multiple problems that a lot of the problems were the parents. How many parents do we have that are on social media setting the example of what their children are doing, whether we talk about bullying, whether we talk about all these other things that are going on. We talk about sexting, which is sending naked photos back and forth between the kids, which is, so that you understand, is a very common thing in all of our schools today. So you send these things, these parents come, they're in complete uproars over it. So what we did then is we did every school. I sat down all 5th through 12th grade, sat down with all 5 school districts we got in front of and talked to them about the dangers of social media. That's when we were having a lot of school threats, things like that put through there. But then we had a parent forum in every community that we wanted people to be able to come out and ask the questions. The problem was, and I'll just use the one at Lapeer High School, for example, when we did that, we had about 40 people. And the problem was, the 40 people that were there are probably the ones that shouldn't be there, that didn't need to be there, because they're doing a lot of these things. They're asking the questions. I say it, you said it, you understand it. I'm sure a lot of us are alike because of being involved and you being here tonight is, I'm your parent, I'm not your friend. And unfortunately, that's the thing that we got to get back to, is we got a lot of kids that are out there. And the bad part is, these are good kids. They just need some help. They just need some support around them. So again, those are some of the things we're focusing on in the school part. A couple of the things that you've seen in the paper and the media stuff that's come up, just to inform you on, the 3 programs that we're really excited that's happening right now. The first one was we put together the new church security program. Here's the problem with this, and I'm always up front with it because this is exploding also. I did a lot of speaking to churches that would ask for to come in, and that they're now looking at how to make their churches safer, places of worship safer. So we started talking with that. Sergeant Miller, Craig Miller from our place, is very involved with his church, and he's done some of that before. So he put some stuff together, and he did a phenomenal job with this. He has been going to multiple churches back and forth. Craig runs a lot of our day-to-day operations at the department logistically. So the problem is, Craig just we don't have funding for this. This isn't revenue that's coming to be able to do these programs. We're doing these on our own time and when we can fit them in. So a lot of our stuff is, unfortunately, we can't get to people right away, but we will get to it. It exploded once the word got out there. Everybody started coming in. And the thing about it is, a lot of our places of worship, not only in our county, but anywhere up here, a lot of these are, you look at the wide range of buildings that we have, of congregation size that we have. We've got, I did one here a few weeks ago up in Oregon Township, United Methodist. And these are homes that have been turned into churches, right? So they weren't built with security or safety in mind, back then. You take all of our schools, same thing. When they were built, we weren't talking about the things we're talking about right now. So a lot of it is trying to figure out how to harden a target, how to make it safer for your worship on whatever days. So, and the people that are really good, and a lot of time it's just very simple things. The truth of the matter is, most churches, they're working on very little revenue or very little budgets, and they're trying to find ways to do things to keep their people safe. It's a really interesting conversation, and people are really open with it because we're seeing the things that are happening around the world, really, in places of worship right now. And it's become a huge target. I've said this from the beginning, I've said this for years, as Americans, I think our children, our churches, and sporting events are the 3 places I think we're very vulnerable. If you're going to take us out at our knees, that's where you do it. And so ultimately, we look at these things, and people are scared. And the problem is, and I won't say what church, but I was at a church where I had a lady that was horribly upset with me because she could not grasp that we were having this conversation about a church. And I understand that. And gosh, I wish we didn't have to either. But as I told you, we're going to have the hard conversations that we need to. And we need to discuss those things. And if we can get better, when we come in to do these programs, we're not there to take over your church and tell you what to do. We're there to listen to what you want to do and then assist you through that and finding a way that economically you can do that. Some things are very simple. We had, in one of the churches I was just at, it being an old home, there were 5 points of entry into that church. Okay, so they can come from multiple different locations. And we talked about, I said, are they all open during your service? Yeah, they are. And you know what? A couple years ago, we never even would have thought about that. Yeah, that's what we did. So my church does. So when we talked about that, I said, how about if we start funneling in from one location on there? Now, there's a lot of them, and there's very, very small to very large in our county. We have security teams that we're setting up inside of church. It's a rotation process. A lot of times you'll get law enforcement that go there, military that does it, or just people. The nice part about our county, and I was just having a conversation before the meeting, is we're a heavily armed county, which I love. As I mentioned that, every meeting that I go to I talk of people getting comfortable with your guns, getting comfortable, get the CPLs. They're so easy to do now. Ultimately, the part I say is to train with them, make sure we're doing that. But the other big part is, if my wife and 2 children are in Kroger's and I'm not with them and something happens, I want a good guy with a gun. In Lapeer County, I don't have to worry about that because we have a lot of guns. But ultimately, as we start looking at these things, these security teams, there's a ton of people that volunteer right off the bat. And it can be a rotation process. It's multiple different ways. You understand when we start talking about these CPLs, it's a touchy topic, or weapons in church, because there's people that get upset about that. And I'm okay. I'm just telling you what your options are so that you as a congregation can come through with what we're going to do or what you want to do for it. We have some that are very extreme, that are highly structured, and then we have some that are very small. But we got very large and small churches in our county. So it's just, some of it is just after these conversations and meeting with the congregation, is little things, lights that came on and went, you know what, we never thought about that. Something very simple that doesn't even cost any money. Something as simple as we do take a point of entry. We move to one door that's the point of entry. And every Sunday or whatever your worship days are, however you have it set up through that you have a rotation there, whether it's 2 people, 1 person, whatever it may be, that stays outside at that, wherever that entrance is, just to view who's coming in. Okay? Pretty much all of us know. I mean, you got obviously some monster churches in our county, but pretty much all of us know if somebody comes in new to that church, they stand out, right? We know everybody. So it's one of those things of, it doesn't have to be a confrontation with it, but let's do that outside, to come up and say, hey, welcome to our church. Are you new here? Before letting them get into there and understand that part of it. Even the parts of, people talk about it. I understand there's a million other things that can come with this. I care about the safety side of it is. We've said to people, do you have a start, whether you lock the door at the beginning of it? Because what most of our churches set up is, we're looking up, and the door point of entry is usually behind us. So we don't even see what's coming into us. So another key part of locking the doors and having that person that each day that stands out there. Maybe that person stands at the back of the church. Little things that we talk to people about. You go to some parts in our county, we don't get a good signal on our cell phone. Talked about hey, do you have a landline in here? Yeah, I do. How about we run that landline to that back door? That we have it somewhere back there that we can get that if we can't get a signal out in parts of our county. Very simple things that we can do and not cost a lot of money. Very extensive program. I won't go into a lot of that. But if you have that and your church is interested in it, we do multiple things. We come in and sit down with them. Sergeant Miller has a complete PowerPoint with it. I attend every one that I can. And then we have him and then some of our SWAT team people that they'll do complete walkthroughs of all your grounds with your staff, with your hierarchy of your church, to just talk about ideas and see things. We do round tables and things. Sergeant Miller even goes so far, he's done simunition in churches with some churches that wanted a more extreme training side of it is. So it's kind of a la carte, whatever best for your church. That's something we're now getting calls from other counties from people to come and do that. We can't keep up with our county, so we're going to stay here. But we're trying to here's the other part. Churches that if you are involved with it, the problem is there's people that's trying to make money off churches. There's people coming in saying, oh, we can give you the world for such and such amount of money. And once they get in there and then say, well, here's that cost of it, we don't need that. And the problem is some of the ones that I know that have been in Lapeer County or approached people, they don't have the resume to be doing or saying anything that they're going to be. We're there to make sure you're safe. Other people are there to make money. I'm not saying there's not some good ones out there, but a lot of us don't have that checkbook that can write some of the things they want if they do have the credentials that they say they do. The second big program is the Vivitrol. Vivitrol is probably, anybody, I mean, if I know it's in the media and the news and everything, but anybody heard of Vivitrol besides the media stuff or know anything about it? Good, perfect. Here, I'm going to give you another topic that some of you might be upset about, because I always look at both sides in everything we do. Vivitrol is a drug. Prior to this, a lot of people know it as Suboxone or naloxone. There's multiple names for it. Vivitrol is a drug. This is actually a shot, an injection that goes in, and it works on the receptors of the brain. And obviously, that's why during the press conference that I did, I brought the doctor from Hamilton, because the words they said were way too big for my dialect. So I'm not a doctor to explain exactly how it works medically, but basically it works on the receptors of the brain. And the interesting part that I still cannot grasp is Vivitrol works on the receptors for opiates and for alcohol. So that's a different twist to me, and I've tried to grasp how it works that way, because obviously we have other drugs for people that are their addiction to alcohol, to where they can't drink, and then we obviously have Suboxone for any of the opiate addiction stuff. This is a shot, basically, that's come out. The success rate is through the roof on Vivitrol. It's been around for a long time. It's just now kind of being changed up a little bit. And Vivitrol is a shot that lasts 30 days that works on that. So it basically takes away the entire craving of wanting to get high, wanting to get drunk. And it also, if they use, because you have some other drugs that are out there that if they use, then they're in trouble. This is one that it kills the receptors in the brain, so that if I am an addict and I'm taking Vivitrol, and then I take heroin, which is obviously opiate-based, I won't feel anything. Physically, I will. You could still overdose, because you have the physical part, the reaction to the drug, but you don't feel anything. You don't feel the high. That's obviously not what our goal is with it, but we looked at it and went, okay, I know you probably know this, and I know some people have very short strings for addiction. We get it both sides, and because I speak out very openly when I say what we're doing isn't working. What are we doing now? We're lodging them in jail to take care of the problem, and then they're getting back out whatever amount of time, and they're right back to where it is. Here's the difference in our community. We just did a study for Michigan Sheriff's Association that was based on this. Vivitrol is a little bit cutting edge for us, which I like. We did a study, Michigan Sheriff's Association did a study and said, how many people, go back over your last year, how many people in your jail are suffering from severe, not just a little, but severe mental health, who are being treated medically and through therapy and with psychiatric and everything else, or severe addiction? What percentage of your population? Severe mental health or severe addiction? 71% in Lapeer County. We're a medical facility now. We're not a jail anymore. When you take today, we're currently, I think we're at 107 in our jail right there. Think of that. Over 75, 76 people in there are severe mental health, severe addiction. We're not fixing the problem. Okay? So we're trying to figure out a way to do this. The problem is there's many aspects to that obviously is costing taxpayer dollars to take care of these people. So we went, okay, what if we try something a little bit outside the box? Lapeer County, they just had, the Department of Corrections just came in. They went through we get audited every year. The last couple of years, it's been fantastic. This year we came in, and they came right out and said, you are the #1 jail in the state. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, because I told you I'm pretty blunt about things. That's not because of Scott McKenna. Ron did a great job with the jail prior to me. Lieutenant Englehart, Dwayne, that runs the jail, is probably the best, is the best in the state. So now in Lapeer County, there's jails from all over the state that get sent here when they're having issues in their jail for them to sit down and see our practices. So again, that's not because of me. That's because Lieutenant Englehart he's the best at it. So, but what we do is, and what the philosophy is that we all really force is, I come from different counties. I've spent a lot of time. I ran the Detective Bureau over in Flint for so many years. I've been in jails all over the place. I've never seen one like Lapeer County where we truly try to improve the people that are in our jail. Because here's the other part of it is, close to 80% of those people are coming right back into our county. So we have a duty to try to make them better. These are people that we're going to be sitting in Myers with, Kroger's with, at the gas station with. So we looked at it and said, okay, how can we do this? One Vivitrol shot is over $1,000 for 30 days. So we went, okay, we can't do that because obviously we're not going to have that charge to the county and charge to our taxpayers. So we kind of thought outside the box a little bit. We sat down with the manufacturer of Vivitrol and said, would you look at this? Would you look at offering to any of our inmates inside of our jail that are fighting with addiction and want help? Because a lot of these people want help. Remember, when they're in jail, obviously in a jail, they can only be in there for a year, sentence-wise. If they're awaiting trial, they could be longer. But the average stay in Lapeer County's jail is 28 days. So it could be multiple reasons why they're in there. But if we had them in there and they wanted help, would you look at giving that first injection, the first start of Vivitrol, free of cost? And they obviously finished the meeting, talked to their higher-ups, and came back and said, but here was our plan. We would do the injections. We have nurses and stuff in there, fantastic ones. We would give it about 10 to 14 days out from them getting released, if they wanted that, and then we would structure them in a complete therapy set up from there and doctor's appointment. The day that they're released, they are going to CMH the next day, and their appointments are set up for the next month, not only through Hamilton Clinic for the Vivitrol, CMH through there, and then a lot of our therapy, health department stuff and things like that. Very structured for them. Now, the truth of the matter is, let's be blunt, we're not going to have 100% on this, right? Some people are going to go out and they're going to fall off. But if we have 30%, 40%, 50%, it's better than what we're doing right now. So we set them up. If they're not on Medicaid, they get on Medicaid in there. They come out. Medicaid covers Vivitrol 100%. So from that time they do that and they get that shot 10 to 14 days prior, we already know when their next appointment is. They already know they're reporting to CMH the next day for their therapy, for their counseling, for their addiction, all the other things. We've done, as of the end of last week, I don't know if there was any of the last 2 days because I've been out of town, but we've done 11 so far, and our numbers are really good with them. We're realists. We understand we're going to have some that aren't going to be that way. Here's the hard part is that I think a lot of times people forget about with inmates. People come to that jail, and it's very common. I worked narcotics for many years back early in my career. And so I have an interest in that. So a lot of the inmates I'll have come up to my office, and I'll sit and talk with them because a lot of times I like to find out their path, their journey that got them here. A lot of these inmates that are in there, they're better than they've ever been. They feel better than they've ever been in years because they're clean, they're getting 3 square meals, they're showered, they're now at least seeing therapists, they're thinking clearly. And a lot of these people want to do it. They want to fix that. They've lost their children. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their health, whatever it may be. And then what do we do all across the country? Okay, your time's up. We open the door and push them right back into that black hole that they've lived in forever. Now we can hold their hand through it a little bit. Some people get upset about that. That's what I feel my responsibility is to try to make them better. And it's to try to improve because they're coming back into our town. It's really exciting. It's something we're getting a ton of calls now from other departments that are trying it. So far, everything's worked flawlessly. For us in Lapeer County, this isn't the same in other counties. Our relationship with CMH couldn't be better. That's a partnership that is so important to us. And because we're talking about the mental health side of inside the county. It is crazy to see the things that were in there. There's some days, we actually have, if you haven't been in the jail, we have 5 observation cells. That jail was built 20 years ago, okay? Totally, and it's still a great jail. But we have 5 observation cells. Observation is either for suicidal or detoxing horribly or, just unruly or mental health. I went in there on a Saturday here about a month ago. We had 5 cells. It's meant for one person because there's nothing that they can hurt themselves in there with. We had 3 in each cell. We had 15 people. That's scary. And if you listen during the commission meetings, I go through out of the amount that we take into jail every week and how many of them are detoxing. The numbers are staggering. It's actually scary. So how do we fix that? We keep doing the things. We try new things. And if those don't work, then we try new things. We try something else. And the other part is we educate and we talk openly about it so that people are aware of the issues. We've done a lot of things, obviously, with Families Against Narcotics and everything, trying to improve a lot of those situations. The big picture, we're not going to change this overnight, but by God, each day we're going to pick at it to try to get away with it. Lastly, and I'll speed up so I can get to your questions, but you probably saw stuff in the paper. I do this as a shameless plug on top of it. We just started the new Victim Service Unit. Victim Service Unit is, we're now accepting applications for it. This is a volunteer position. It's something that the other counties have done that is really, really very, very successful. One of the biggest programs in there. There's funding through Michigan Sheriff's Association. Basically what we're looking for is people that would be interested, and I said in there, they don't need background in law enforcement. They don't need background in medical or therapist or any other stuff. They basically need to have a big heart and to want to help people in their community. This is something that will send people away. The initial training, Jeremy Howell, the undersheriff, has put a ton of time into this. When I first came in to office, this was the one program that I wanted to see take off here. But I didn't want to throw it together quickly. I wanted to make sure that we had our ducks in a row, which we do have now. Basically, when people apply for this, they come in. There's information, just a thing that's at the front desk of the office. They send it in. Undersheriff Howell contacts them. They come in. They talk with them. Basically, what it's going to be is they're going to be sent for the initial training. I think it's 3 or 4 nights somewhere in the west side of the state. We pay for all the hotel rooms. Michigan Sheriff's Association does. We pay for everything for the training for them. And there's about 3 or 4 days of training initially with it. What's the short version of it? We're setting up services. We have crime victim stuff for court. So if you're a victim of a crime, when you get to court, which is usually pretty lengthy, at least a couple months before you get there, then you have somebody that helps you through the system there. But what about the person that there's a homicide, there's a suicide, there's a fatal accident, there's an unnatural death, there's a horrible scene with whatever it may be? Investigators are trying to do their side of the job. And unfortunately, sometimes what gets shortcut is that true part of spending time with the family and helping them through their personal side. Let's be truthful. A lot of us, you never use law enforcement in your life until it's that one horrible day. So if we're going to do notification on a fatal accident where somebody's been killed, we'll have investigators go to the scene to do the notification. We'll page out some of our VSU group who are people that just care, are willing to be there and help these people through that first 48 to 72 hours of that process. And then when we go back to our investigation part, the VSU unit assists them with contacting family. It might even just be sitting on the couch and crying with them for a little bit. Whatever it may be, who can we contact for you? Can we get a pastor here for you? Your priest, whoever it may be. What can we do to make your transition and help you here? It could be, an unexpected death. I've never had a family member. I don't even have anything set up. I don't have anything. It was young, or I didn't have any of that. We'll contact the funeral homes for them. We have contacts with all of them. We can assist them in that process. We can walk them through that process. Life insurance. Or the part of the investigation itself. Why are they going to have to do an autopsy on my son or my daughter? They can explain these things to them. They can walk them, because there's a million questions, right? And a lot of times it's tough to when it finally settles in. But it's that liaison that's there if you need them. So it's just that extra piece that I really like to hold on to about Lapeer County, is how tight-knit we are. And you know what? We can agree to disagree on all kinds of things. And we can have things or we'd like to see things done differently. The one thing this county does really well, when something goes bad, this county comes together very quickly. And it's always been that way. This is just another piece of that puzzle that will help with trying to get people involved. We put that out. We had 30 applications in 2 days. Our plan would be, we're kind of increasing the numbers now, but our plan is going to be to have somewhere around the mark of, we started off at 12 to 15. We're probably going to look at 16 to 20 of them, because we don't want the commitment to be horrible for the volunteer. Meaning, There will be groups that can, on the part, you could work a day shift on call, a night shift on call. You know, I can't do weekends, I can't do this, whatever. We wanted to have more so that once every 5 weeks, you might be on call for a few days. And it would work through dispatch. We'd call dispatch and say, hey, contact the VSU advisor. They would contact, we send everybody out in pairs. You're going to have Lapeer County Sheriff's Department victim service units on so that you're identified at the scenes or to go to the houses or any of those things, and then walk these people through the worst time of their life. So it's really getting a lot of leverage. We're getting a ton of people that are in there. The nice part about it is the Michigan Sheriff's Association pays for all of this. There's not a taxpayer dollar that goes to this. So it's something that's been in the books for a long time, very successful in other areas. And the counties that do have it said it's probably the best program they have. So I threw kind of a bunch of things at you, and I know I don't want to go too long here, but any questions on any of those programs or any individual questions you guys have? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That's right.
You're all right. I'll ask one question.
Yeah.
Ask what you'd like of the sheriff.
Okay, my question deals with your second issue on the mental health problems that we have, and the fact that you have become sort of a medical. What is your opinion, or what's your position with regard to the Carroll issue, dealing with the mental health closure with the governor's proposal to close that down? And what kind of burden would that impose upon us locally, although that's an adjoining county, but that is a mental health facility that is essential to the Michigan Thumb area. And how much money is allocated, and I heard you make this presentation before regarding how much money is coming from the Lapeer Sheriff's budget to administer the necessary drugs and prescriptions for these people, 70% of which are either medically dependent or need your distribution of things to pain or whatever while they're incarcerated, and they're not really what you would so-call or refer to as a criminal, but medical. I'd like you to comment and address that.
Oh, it's great. It's very, very, very true. And I mean, we talk about the Carroll stuff, two sides of it. We look at the mental health side. We also look at the addiction side of the rehab side. You're trying to get beds nonstop. That's what we do. You take Family Against Narcotics, and thank God we have with Region 10 and some of the things we're able to do that gives them a little bit of the first line to get them in there. But when we started out with a lot of the programs that we were putting in, we get someone that walks through us and comes into, like Hope Not Handcuffs, for example. Hope Not Handcuffs, if you don't know or remember what that was, basically anybody can walk into the Sheriff's Department at any time. I don't care what they have. They can walk in and say, I need help. And at that point, we'll call out. We have people through FAN that are called angels that will come out, and we immediately work with them to get them into rehab immediately. No questions asked. It's just come in and say that you need help. The problem is we've tweaked it now to get better. The problem is there's times this happens, and they're like, well, we don't have a bed available in the state. You're not going to get that person again. If they come walk through that door and they were in that spot where they've hit rock bottom, you need to take advantage of that immediately. To come back and say on a Saturday, you know what, we can get you in somewhere on Wednesday. You just defeated your whole purpose. You just took the hope, or that person is at that point, because ultimately it's when they truly want to do it. We don't have any of those. The mental health side of it is, we don't, in the state of Michigan especially, we don't have places to put people. And your point was really good. We brought that up at commission here a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to see when we really started looking at this numbers, when that 71% of mental health and addiction, I wanted to see what our line item was at the sheriff's office in the jail just on medically treating these people, because that's where I keep saying it is, we're not a jail, we're a hospital. It's truly what we're doing. Those nurses are so overworked back there. We're in the process right now of trying to add one, because these people are coming in so sick. Number one, they have the addiction, and their body's just been depleted by that, but then they don't take care of themselves. They don't eat. They're not sleeping. They're coming in the sickest of the sick. So they're coming in there, and then we're trying to get them better or try to get them up to the standard to where they're healthy again. So I said, okay, let's go with the last, because we can throw numbers all day, and we can move those around to make it look however we want. I wanted a hard number to see what you've paid in our budget for medical expenses for inmates. Now, this isn't doctors, our doctors, this isn't our nurses, this is medical stuff for the inmates in our jail for 1 year. 3 years ago, it was $126,000. Last year, or 17, it was $161,000. 2018 was just under $190,000. It's shooting through the roof because these people are coming in so sick. So that's not going to get better. And that's where that's why we've sat down, and we do this quite often, is we sit at these tables and go, okay, what ideas do we have? And I say that to you, I say that to every forum. If you have ideas or things that you think would be successful in our community, please come talk to us. Because we're not, like I said, we're not the ones that have all the answers. I'd rather have 88,000 people thinking about it than just me. But we're trying to, and that's where we said, okay, let's think outside the box. Let's be willing to take that and try some things that maybe we can improve. Maybe we can get better results. Any other questions?
Just a comment, really. We had Sergeant Miller and his group of guys come over to our
Great.
church a couple of weeks ago. They did an excellent job, and I really appreciate it to help keep our church family safe.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Sheriff, thanks for being here tonight.
Sure.
When you mentioned kids, I've volunteered for a lot of years with Lapeer schools. I know it's a tough gig. But I also know as a parent, it was Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts, and seeing firsthand exactly what you're talking about, parents not willing to step through the door. Isn't there some way that we can penalize them financially? I mean, amongst everything else, they'll respond. If their child's held accountable and there's a fee it has to get taken care of, that's going to deal with it. I mean, it'll get them in there regardless. They may not like it, but, you know, I mean, it's just ridiculous that, you know, parents will dump, whether it can be, and it's not all. I don't mean to overgeneralize.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But whether it's Little League, whether it's whatever it is, it seems like in today's world, so many parents are looking for that hour break or an hour and a half break that they don't have to be mom, dad, so they can play on Facebook or they can, you know, whatever they're doing. Sure. And they're not watching their kids. So wouldn't it make sense to try to do something where financial, I mean, first off, for this vaping, isn't it illegal to start with for these kids? What is it? Is it 18 or is it 16 or what is 18, it's 18.
Yeah. And that's a good question. So we're looking, actually Mayfield's doing it right now. So the vaping thing is because there's parts of the vape itself, there's some that they could have that don't have nicotine in it, and then there's some that have nicotine in it, and then all these, and the problem is, like anything, a month from now, what are we going to be talking about then? Because it just goes, it's a new thing every couple of weeks that comes with it. So we are doing that. We are charging kids. We're looking at some local ordinance that maybe has a little bit more things to it. Elmont just did one, and then, like I said, Mayfield's researching it right now. We're kind of looking at that with the schools, too. The schools are handling a lot of it internally. And, you know, when we talk about the money side of it, and not to go, this is extreme to compare to that part, but we look back in that first year at the Zemmer situation that we had with the threats there. The families of those kids, right in Judge Loca's court, that was part of the plea deal, or that was part of their deal that he put in there. They were charged large sums of money. I think the lowest one was $22,000. So I agree, because that is how you get the attention. And I think, you know, I say this, and people probably get sick of me saying it, but the whole thing with the parent stuff, they don't get it. And I can't agree with you more. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is look at new ways to get people's attention. And you've probably heard me tell this story, because the one that drove me crazy, we did a forum, that public forum. I said there was like 40 people that showed up at Lapeer. It was myself, Superintendent Wandry, and then Chief Frisch. And we got to the end of it, and they were all asking different questions. And we did these in every school district, all 5. I had a lady, towards the end, she said, my question is for you, Scott. So I grabbed the mic, and she said, why are you just doing this 5th through 12th grade? And I said, well, that's a very valid point. I said, but again, I'm telling you, I'm going to be blunt. There's only one of me. So unless I can clone myself, I can't get to, because that took me about 6 weeks to hit every single school kid. And I said, plus, I think we need to build another younger platform for the way our conversations. We can't have the same conversations with some of those older ones. And she goes, okay. And she goes, well, that makes sense. I just would like to see the younger ones, which we're currently putting together right now. We're going to roll out a bunch of things for this new school year. So followed up the next question is another lady raised her hand, and she said to Superintendent Wandry, she goes, well, my question's for the superintendent. So Matt takes the mic, and he says, yes, ma'am. She goes, I think the school should start having classes that are like repetitive, that start very young, like kindergarten, first grade, and then it's building on that message and talking about more things. And he goes, I love it, but what are you talking about? She goes, I don't know, just different things that I think would be good for them to hear and to be taught in these classes going up. And at this point, I kind of walked over to the side of the stage. And Matt goes, I still love it, but give me an idea of the concept. What is it? What discussion do you want to have? And she goes, just things on, like, manners and work ethic and morals. And I walked over to rip that mic out of Matt's hand because I knew he was going to be politically correct with it. So I walked over, and Matt wouldn't give me the mic because he knew I was going to be mad. And he goes, well, yeah. And so he talked about it and stuff, and then I grabbed it after, and I said, so let's just be clear. You want the schools to parent your kids. That's what you just asked. You want them to teach of the manners and, when the things that should be happening at home. You now want, so, okay, let me think about that. The school district right now, and all these teachers, so not only are they trying to teach in our curriculums, they're also the security guards in the school, they're the police in the school, they're the psychiatrists in the school, they're the therapists in the schools, and now you want them to be the parents in the schools. And I knew, as you see, I'm always bald and red. It doesn't matter where I go, I'm red. So, but that night, I could just feel my blood pressure rising because I'm like, and the problem was, she then followed up and said, I don't know how you expect me to do it. I have 3 different children, 3 different girls at 3 different schools in this, so obviously different ages. And she goes, I can get along with real well, but the 2, they don't listen to me. I don't know how you guys expect me to do it. Yeah, thus why there's no hair on my head anymore. But it was truthful, but dead serious when she said it. And I just went, and again, that's not the majority. We got a lot of great parents and people out there that do it, but the schools are struggling with this stuff. We're struggling with this stuff, and I do agree that a lot of times, how do you get their attention? You get in their pocket. It's a great point. Yes, sir. Ooh.
Yeah, maybe the parents need to take parenting classes before they have kids. That's where it needs to start, right there.
I know. It is. It is so frustrating. And like you said, you got so many parents that are so involved in this community. And then I have kids that I have coached since 8, 9, 10 years old. Some of the we were just talking about this. There were 2 kids that are playing. My son's a freshman. He's at Zemmer, but in Lapeer here. I coached him, and now my son has played with him for the last 2 years. So 5 years I've seen him. I've never seen his parents at a game. 5 years. So, my soapbox, I apologize.
Change of topic.
Yeah.
When you look at the proliferation of opioids and other drugs in the community, do you perceive it as being a problem of sales pushing drugs into the community, or is it really the social aspect that's pulling drugs into the community?
That's actually really well put. I think it's both. And we don't have, because we do this a lot, we have a lot of our drugs do come in from outside the county. That's why I had pulled when I came in, the sheriff's department didn't have anybody assigned. They had somebody assigned to Flint that was in the drug team over there. I pulled him out, and he's with TNU, Thumb Area Narcotic here. The state? Or TN, what's that? Yes, but now it's run by the state. It's a concept team through Michigan State Police. Yes, no, and so there's multiple agencies that are on it. But that was our big focus, is we were trying to, because we wanted to, when we put people in there, we had somebody in Flint, and I agree, I understand that part of saying a lot of it's coming from there, but we're getting bombarded from all over. We're getting bombarded from the west, we're getting bombarded from the south with Detroit and Pontiac, and we're getting bombarded from the east with Port Huron. So we have it coming from here. And now that we're really getting involved with it, it is, the word is out there. You get, because we're setting up drug deals all the time, and we're doing them in Lapeer. You get a big, and this is the majority, there's not a chance in heck they're coming into Lapeer. So they do know that and understand that. But I think it's a little bit of both. We have that outside source that is taking this, and our county is just a perfect, because you have some money out here, you have a lot of people out here, your schools are very big, that are coming out and getting introed into that part of it, introed to our kids. But the access then is building that from within, because if you have a kid that's in town or in our county that is buying more and then reselling them, it's an open market. So we're seeing it kind of travel down into the schools and everything there. The one big part, because a lot of times people talk, when they say drugs, a lot of people, I think we're finally getting it, but people, when they say drugs or the drug problem, for years, that didn't include prescriptions. They didn't think of that. That was kind of like an offset of it. Our biggest problem in our schools right now, besides the marijuana stuff, is our biggest problem is prescription drugs. Those are getting handed out and it comes to a lot of the things that sometimes we're our own worst enemies. And I speak about those all the time there too, but I'm very open. I said I'll always be blunt with it. I have 2 fake hips. I have 2 hip replacements. I had my first hip replacement at 39. What did they do when you go get those things done? You get them done, you're going through your therapy, they give you the big medicine thing with however many tablets were in them, and you take them, and then ultimately, I don't know, it's what my parents did and probably what my grandparents did. When I got done with them and I wasn't taking them anymore, where did I put them? Medicine cabinet. All right? It's what we all do. These kids now, you get, whether it's your kid mowing your lawn or a kid coming over to ask you to break your leaves or that's coming in to shovel your driveway, and then all of a sudden they're just doing that, and I'm sorry, could I use your bathroom too? And they're going through your medicine cabinet. There's all kinds of things that are happening that it's internal. And the prescription drug stuff, I do like, and there's people that will know way more than me about it, but my wife is a ortho PA at Ortho Michigan here. And they've really clamped down on what these doctors are doing now, which is a good thing. There's a big part of that because when you start hearing some of the things that are happening in there or in the schools, we got kids that are crashing, that are handing out pills. Kids are just randomly taking pills. We had one here a couple months ago that did that. And basically what he truly did, and I go back to my other one, just to show it's existed, but I had an investigation at my old place. This kid, mom had multiple issues, medical issues. Brother was an 18-year-old brother that had cancer, been fighting it forever. So their house was like a pharmacy between the two of them. This kid, who happened to be a 15-year-old kid, grabbed a 1-gallon Ziploc bag, walked over and just randomly reached in 50 pill bottles, took handfuls out, and threw them in the gallon Ziploc bag. He then walked into, this happened to be over in Flushing schools, because the kid went out of district, walked into the hall. His plan was, he said at that time, is he was going to sell them, but he walked in and opened up the bag for first hour. Kids just walked by and grabbed them. We had one kid that was on a vent for 7 days. Ended up living, but he's a mess. It's one of his best friends. We had the same thing happen here. They're randomly, if you hear kids that talk about things with, they'll call them skittle parties. Skittle party is where they put a bowl at a party, at a house party. There's a big bowl in there. Every kid that's somewhere at their house goes into the medicine cabinet, grabs whatever they have, comes in with their pills, drops them in the bowl. Now there's all kinds of, and then it's randomly through the night, they just grab pills and throw them in their mouth. Yeah, exactly. Think about that. Now, here's where I always end with this stuff. The problem is when I speak, a lot of times I always worry that people get out and they get in their car and go, we got to move. we're out of here. And it's not that. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm going to talk very openly about this stuff. I want it with your kids or your grandkids to have these conversations. And a lot of times that's where I tell parents, even going back to the other conversation, a lot of times I find myself, these kids will tell you if you'll talk openly with them. I've been blessed to coach so many kids, so I've got 1,000 kids that talk very openly with me. But I went back last year, and it was when my son first went to Zemmer. And my son was this year he's a freshman, but he's playing varsity baseball. So I knew there were some pressures in there that were going to come, or he was going to be exposed to things he wasn't normally used to. So I took him up to, my dad lives up north. I took him up to the cabin for 2 days, and I just wanted to have true talks with him because I knew what he was about to focus with. And I sat down the one night with him, and we're talking, and we have a good relationship with it. But I had rehearsed it kind of all in my head and all the things that he was going to be exposed to. So I sat down, and I had it all rehearsed, and I started going, and I'm about 15 minutes into it, and I went, who's doing all the talking? I'm talking at you. I'm not talking with you. And I stopped because he had shut down at that point. And I said, fortunately I caught myself, and I said, buddy, I'm sorry. I said, tell me what's going on. What are you struggling with? They'll tell you. Now, it might scare the heck out of you what they tell you. But ultimately, when I say here in these conversations, it does. People go, oh, my God, it's terrible. I had a lady tell me a while back, I was back in the campaign. Truthfully, in the campaign stuff, was probably 70% of what people talked about was that our town was going to heck with drugs. But I had a lady tell me, she's like, I can't do it anymore. She goes, I'm sick to my stomach of what's happening in this town. This town is overrun with drugs. No, it's not. I come from a town that was overrun with drugs. This town is fantastic, and we got great people in it. We got great people doing things every day. Do we have our issues? Yes, like every other town across this country. But at the same point is, I wouldn't live anywhere else. And ultimately, if we continue to do these things, to have the opportunity to come up and speak about them, because ultimately, and I go everywhere, and I'll talk to anybody that wants to. But if I can talk to 40 people tonight, and 40 of you go and have your conversation with your kids or your grandkids or your neighbors or whatever it may be, and say, we get better, little by little. And I think ultimately that's what my goal is to have the conversations and we can improve. But when I talk about all these things that are going on, I wouldn't live anywhere else. We have a great community. And you see some of the counties around us, there's a lot of issues there. But the point with us is we're going to address them, and we're going to talk about them. And we need all of your help in doing that. So if you have suggestions, ideas, all the other things, please come with us because we can't do this alone. Okay? Good? What's that? Okay.
No, I have two here tonight are from St. Matthew's Church downtown. Normally don't need one of these things. We're from St. Matthew's, the downtown church. Your Sergeant Craig Miller did come and spend almost a day walking our facility, which originally is 4 buildings made into one. A lot of that happens in older towns. Problem is, we're in the city. And Sergeant Miller wasn't aware at that point in time, this was some months back, who, if anyone, would the Lapeer City Department have as a church liaison officer?
So when we first started this program, and when Craig started doing a lot of those, we talked to Chief Frisch about it. They have a little bit different program. They got 2 guys that are trained in more of commercial building side of protection-wise. So that's where they're doing a lot of it. We went to them and said, they are completely on board with us. The relationship we have with Lapeer City is a partnership. There's no difference really in them. So, and so Dave and I had talked about it, and I said, listen, I don't want to step on any toes if we're getting calls from, he's like, no, we like what you're doing. They have things, you know, if there's bigger trainings with it, then we'll do it together. But a lot of it's being moved to us to do there. And like I said, they're good with that. They do have Wenzel, who is now actually the SRO at Roland Warner. He's one of the ones that does them. Wenzel, W-E-N-Z-E-L.
W-E-N.
W-E-N-Z-E-L. And he just became the school resource officer at Zemmer, but he's the one that does those.
See, our major concern is, number one, we're going to have to do something like you said for exterior.
Yeah.
Look working,
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
We're working on that, but the trick then becomes who do dispatch to? Do we dispatch to county? Do we dispatch to
Well, anyone,
city?
and again, things are really good right now with, I think, and it happens everywhere, but there were some barriers when we came in between departments a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
They don't exist now. So basically the nice part about it is if you, knock on wood, you had an incident, something that happened to your church, that 911 call goes out, it's given to all of us. Now Lapeer City will be the response, because Lapeer City, the nice part about Lapeer City is they have a lot of cars on in a small area.
There's a problem. It would not go out as a 911. It would go out as an alarm. And initially, we're talking about a silent, inaudible.
It'll still
for
go,
the initial.
it still goes to 911 though.
Then it's going audible.
Okay, so, and I can't say because I don't know exactly how your alarm system's set up, but a silent alarm, most silent alarms go immediately to dispatch. And then when dispatch gets it, that's the nice part about Lapeer County. Genesee was different because we were so big. Lapeer County, it's dispatched on one channel. So even if there's an Elmont car that's driving down 24 at that time, they could respond.
I used to put up with it over maps, believe it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
3 radios in the car.
No, it's absurd. And Genesee was that way. The nice part here is and you look with the amount of cars that we have on, there's always somebody real close right there. And the city does a great job.
Usually, the thing that worries me is when you get into a monitored alarm situation
Mhm.
like we are.
Mhm.
It's got to go through a second hand before it gets to dispatch.
Yeah, and there is some issues with that
Which
depending
is
on your
why
alarm
I
company.
love it silent initial.
No, I totally agree. It's
That way your guys know what's going on. They show up. We have an opportunity to calm someone down.
sure,
Try
you're
to
right.
placate. Walk in. All right, guys, everything's cool.
Right.
Now we go into the street. On that second one, then I'm running.
No, I hear you. I totally hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Just sort of a follow-up with the building issues. I've been attending a lot of, to preface it, I've been attending a lot of meetings with the coalition, senior coalition, the collaborative groups and so forth.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, I'm suggesting to a lot of different groups that maybe some of these buildings should be shared uses and for better usage, community center and so forth. And I brought this up between the library board and because we know that there was also some suggestion them doing a new building for library, new building for the schools and so forth. And the library board broached this issue, said we cannot be anywhere associated with the school district. I said, why is that? Their response was, well, because we allow sex offenders in the library. Have you heard that response before, or is that in fact?
I can't say I've been in any of those conversations, but the way the law is written, that would say a sex offender is cannot be within 1,000 feet of a school. So it wouldn't apply to a library. That's not in the statute. So I guess feasibly what they're saying is right, but I haven't been a part of any of those conversations.
I'm just wondering, that's a very strange thing because the two uses are so compatible, and yet.
Valid, yeah. It's something I never thought of.
Consequently, I was looking at them and said, why are we duplicating services throughout the county here, and why are we imposing a tax burden on everybody? So I thought I'd bring that legal issue to you.
It makes sense.
It
Now that you
does
say
make
it.
sense, but I just wondered if you've ever heard that before.
Yeah, it's the law, and I believe it's 1,000 feet.
Right.
It's so, and it doesn't apply to libraries, so that would be correct.
Okay, all right.
So. Yeah, there you go. So, and I do apologize. I do have to run because I got a family that hasn't seen me in a few days, so I'm going to get some squeezes. So, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank Sergeant Miller, which please.
And now that brings us to our legislative update, and I think we have Brendan Miller would like to say something. Commissioner, please come on up.
Well,
Can you guys hear me okay with this? I hate microphones because I don't like hearing my voice, but I guess we'll... Yeah. Well, and that's what I was actually going to mention. I really appreciate you guys filming this because I'm currently putting together historical documentation of every election in Lapeer County, and it's great to be able to actually look at a video and listen and hear the concerns of the county at that point in time. I think you guys go on the website back to 2010, so I really do appreciate that, and that's really great. And that I do believe you guys get some views on YouTube too, which is pretty awesome. A few things. Yeah. Yep. So first off, I just want to say thank you for the support in the campaign. I really appreciate it. I haven't been here since. I've been having a meeting usually on every Tuesday, but that's done now, so I should be here on a more regular basis. It's really an honor and a privilege to serve as a commissioner, and as I said, I'm very honored that the Tea Party supported me, just some 21-year-old who hasn't been the most experienced, but is certainly very passionate, and you guys put your trust in me, and I really do appreciate that. So thank you, first and foremost. And since I've been elected, I want to let you know I have met with every single department in the county, bar 2. So every single department I've actually met with, sat down with, and had a conversation with. And from what I'm told, that doesn't happen very often. So I want to let you know I am doing what I said I was going to do, and I am getting things done. Third thing I wanted to mention real quick is the Caro Center resolution, because that's something that just came up. And that's something that I really pushed for in the county commission. And is everyone aware of the situation that's going on in Caro right now? I'm sure you are. Basically, just as a very, very small run-through, Caro was scheduled to have an increase, expansion of their current mental facility up there. They were going to add an additional 200 beds, which is a massive improvement. And it's scheduled to be done in spring of 2021, so not very long. And the governor decided to pull the rug right out of it without a real excuse for it. And in all honesty, it's completely political in my opinion. So we in Lapeer County passed a resolution, like Huron, like Sanilac, and I do believe Saginaw is or is about to pass a resolution to support Tuscola County keeping it there. Now, who here read the county press over the weekend? A couple of you probably did. Did anybody see the editorial? Maybe, maybe not. The editorial stated in there, and I'm happy I get this opportunity to address it because I feel it's necessary. It asked us why Lapeer County decided to support Tuscola County having that project over asking in that resolution for Lapeer County to take on that project. And I wanted to address that point because Genesee County passed a similar resolution that said, forget Tuscola County, bring it to Genesee County. Now, I personally went down to Genesee County today, and I'll tell you, I'm very happy we didn't do that because they have gotten between 20 to 30 phone calls a day from people in Tuscola County and in their surrounding area who are ticked off that they did that. So we made the right decision here. So that's the first reason I'm happy. The second reason I'm happy we supported Tuscola County, because I would not feel right, and I don't think it's politically right, to benefit off the tragedy of another county. Caro, if they lose that facility up there, that is the second largest employer in the entire county. The city of Caro will be crushed. And in my opinion, our counties here in the thumb, Lapeer is certainly part of that, we got to stick together. We cannot be turning around and stabbing each other in the backs. So I'm very happy we made the decision to stick with Tuscola on that region, on that point as well. And let's just be honest here. If Governor Whitmer does cancel it in Tuscola County, she's not going to move it to Lapeer County. That's not going to happen. Let's just be honest about that. Let's not play some game like, oh, we might have a chance. They won the bid fair and square. They got the promise from the state. And personally, in my opinion, I am sick and tired of the state making a promise and then pulling the promise out. So that's what I think we made a stand on, is that we're done with the state making a promise and pulling out for completely political reasons. So I'm very proud of the resolution we put forward, and I'm not apologetic to it. And I hope the county press realizes that the statement that Lapeer should have called for it here is completely nonsensical and is completely out of left field. So and just to add a little bit further to that, if she does end up pulling it out, and she's going to announce in June, she says, it's going to take between 4 to 6 years to get another one built. The current one is scheduled to get built in 2021. Let's just say she picks a state, a county, at the end of the year. Add 4 to 6 years, and then we'll finally get those beds. And as you heard from the sheriff, and as you'll hear from any other mental health facility and any other mental health official, we cannot afford to wait another 4 to 6 years for more mental health beds. So that's something I wanted to address here today. And the last thing I wanted to address is sort of what the sheriff touched on. I just want to say amen to the sheriff for talking about the quietness on the political level. You know how we have political correctness? Well, I also think we have this political quietness where public officials don't want to say something in an open meeting, don't want to say something in the public because they're worried it might cause something. But the problem is social media already said it, and if you don't make a response as a public official, everyone is already going to think you're lying, and everyone's already going to have a negative opinion. We know how social media works. So we, as smart politicians, ought to get out in front of the ball instead of waiting for social media to set their own narratives. Just my opinion. So I want to say the sheriff left, but he really hit the nail on the head. It's time that we actually talk to the public because we can't afford to be silent anymore. It just won't happen. We're always going to be the bad guys in government. That's just a simple fact unless we get out and actually explain the issues that we're talking about. And as I said, having frank conversations is so important. And then the last thing I wanted to address is the vaping, because I'm 22. I'll be honest with you, and this is controversial. I actually used a vape pen before. True story. I'll tell you, I wasn't under 18, but I've actually done it, because a lot of people in my generation did it. Do I know what I didn't know, and want to know what a majority of people who use them have no idea about? Is the nicotine levels. And let me tell you, I can tell you as someone who's 22, an evil word out there is nicotine. But so many don't know, because nicotine actually adds flavor to those vape juices. It increases the flavor. So if you want the best flavor, you got to get the most nicotine. But when you go in and buy them at the places, they don't tell you about that. Just to tell you the amount of nicotine, 36 mgs of nicotine per hit. On average, it takes 4 cigarettes to get that same amount of nicotine. And an increased nicotine level does 4 things to the body. It increases insulin resistance, making it easier for people to get type 2 diabetes. It suppresses appetite, creating an unhealthy weight, and also causing difficulty to maintain a healthy weight and exercise. It increases your heart rate, and it increases blood pressure. And do you want to know how many of those kids that are doing it have no idea about this? Do you want to know how many people who are even my age that have no idea about this? They think it's a safe alternative. It's really not. You're just pumping yourself full of nicotine. So that's all I wanted to address tonight. Thank you guys again for having the opportunity. I don't think are we taking any questions? I don't think so. I see someone. Oh, I'm sorry. Brendan Miller. Yeah. Yep. I represent Rich Township, Deerfield Township, and Marathon Township. So that little corner up in the top. And that also includes Otter Lake and Columbiaville. So that's all I want to say. So thank you guys for the opportunity. And